Hello everyone. Welcome to the first podcast on my channel. Myself, Dr. Karthik Deegutla. I'm an anesthesiologist and a part-time YouTuber. I'm thrilled to introduce you to today's guest, who brings with him a wealth of knowledge and expertise. Joining us is none other than Dr. Murali Thondebhavi, sir. He's an eminent anesthesiologist and the acclaimed author of the insightful book, Think Like an Anesthetist. Hello, sir. Thank you for gracing our podcast with your presence.
Hey, thanks a lot for inviting, and I'm so happy to be the first speaker or guest on your podcast. Thank you very much.
Yeah, pleasure is all ours, sir. Sir, asking you, what is that one incident or person that inspired you to write this book, sir? Think like an anesthetist. Why did you want to write this book in the first place?
Karthik, before we start answering the questions or getting into the conversation, I would like to congratulate you for excellent work that you're doing on
Thank you.
anesthesia notes on all various platforms. It keeps us entertained, and also it gives a lot of good messages, not only to fellow doctors but also to other public, I would say. And you're bringing the specialty and also the entire specialty of medicine, to be frank, into the
Oh,
limelight. Thank you. So now,
thank you so much, sir.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I hope the next half an hour or so will be just a conversation,
Oh,
between
yes, sir.
friends where we are going to discuss a few things. And you started off with a very nice question as to why I wrote the book. Now,
Yes,
going
sir.
back to 2013-14, I read a book called The Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth.
Oh,
Now, this is a book by Canadian astronaut called Chris Hadfield. Now,
hmm,
this book is all about what happens when an astronaut trains, goes up to space, and what are the lessons there? What are the key lessons that an astronaut brings back, and these
oh,
lessons which can be applied into our life. So, to give you an
hmm,
example, we know that we had space disasters where the space shuttle blew up on re-entry way back around 15-20 years ago, and all
hmm,
it came down to was one
yeah,
tile which was a heat resistant tile which was not sitting properly. So
hmm,
this is a message to everybody. In that book, Chris Hadfield says that you got to look after small things in your life which are important.
hmm,
So when I read
yes,
this book, I realized, as anesthetists, we do a lot of things which people don't know. We
hmm,
are always behind the
true.
screen.
Yeah,
Even to that extent, family members don't know what we do.
yes, yes.
So children don't know what we do. Wife or spouse who are of non-medical background, they don't know what we do
We are always undercover,
undercover.
like the
So
unsung heroes, what they say. Yeah.
yeah. So this was in the back of my mind that there should be a book of this kind where we highlight what an anesthetist does, and there are
Yeah.
so many lessons that we can impart, which people can actually follow in their life. So I started gathering all this, and during my talks, and started mapping them together. And what finally made me write the book is actually not a very happy story. Uh, this was
Mhm.
one of my relatives, my cousin's wife, who was an English professor. When I spoke
Mhm.
to her, she said, "Yes, you should write it." And she said, "I'm going to be there with you. I'm going to edit the book, and I'm going to help you write the book." But sadly, just as I started kind of writing the outline and discussing with her, we lost her to COVID in the second wave.
Oh,
So that actually spurred me further to make sure that I finish the book, and it is partly dedicated to her. So these are the main two reasons why the book came about to getting published.
okay. Okay. So this book is not just for all the medical students or the people in healthcare, it is also for the normal public to know what an anesthesiologist does and everything, right, sir?
Yes, and in fact, I have many children who have read it. The youngest is a 9-year-old who has read the first chapter,
Oh,
and and gave me a feedback. So it's written in a very simple English, which can be read by a seventh or eighth standard student. because I wanted it to reach more people. So that was the whole idea.
Yes, yes, sir. Yeah. Actually, I have read this book, sir. You have given some wonderful insights in this. And while reading, I have seen that in your book, you always compared anesthesiologist to a trained pilot of a flight, sir, which is actually very interesting. You have given some comparisons. Can you tell the audience about, throw some light about this, sir?
Airline industry or flying has been compared to anesthesia for a long time. From the time when I was doing my MD 20 odd years ago. The reason is there are few similarities between flying and anesthesia. So let's take an example of the takeoff, the mid-flight and landing. So in anesthesia, the example that we give is when we give the anesthesia drugs and the patient drifts off to sleep, that is equivalent to takeoff. It's a very crucial part of the entire process, right? So it is very
Yes.
important that we give utmost importance at that time. Very similar to what would happen in airline, in a flight, because they'll ask you to wear your seat belts, open the windows, keep the lights dim. So this is one aspect. So you can compare anesthesia to flight. That yes, takeoff is happening. Then mid-flight is when
Yeah.
things are stable, like you have a major surgery going on. Things generally are stable during the phase where surgery is going on. And then when you have to wake the patient up, that's the landing, right?
Yeah.
So just like a flight, once you're up in there, you have to land. So
Yes. Yes.
just like once we are given anesthesia, we have to wake the patient up. So this is
Yes.
one comparison that is given. The second comparison is the variables involved. So let's take, for example, the variables involved in anesthesia. Now we have an anesthesia machine, which we thoroughly check and make sure it's working. The same goes with the pilot. He has to make sure that the aeroplane, the machine that he's actually flying is it's got no issues. So they do all their safety checks. The second is he makes sure that he knows what the weather is, right? Where
Yes.
where the
Yes.
storm front is, where he needs to
Yeah.
avoid, where is the foggy condition. We do the same thing with the patient. We do a pre-anesthetic
Yes.
evaluation. We make
Yeah.
sure the cardiac condition or the lung condition is all
Yes.
optimized. So we do all that.
Yes.
The third thing is drugs, right? So again,
Yes.
here the comparison with the flying industry is, make sure the fuel is enough, whatever he's got for the journey, he's got the right things. And finally comes the protocols and guidelines.
Yes.
So we follow our own protocols and guidelines. The airline industry has got their own SOPs. So looking at this comparison, this is again another take on our flying
Yeah.
and anesthesia. The third thing is safety. Now, nobody is obsessed about safety as much as an anesthetist in a hospital.
True.
And I don't know
Yes.
whether you agree with me, but at least
Definitely, sir. I agree with you.
in because emergency department, yes, they're involved with making sure the patient is optimized, triaged, but when it comes to safety, I feel anesthetists are the ambassadors for safety. The same thing goes
Yes.
with the airline industry, right? They are obsessed about
Yes.
safety,
Yes. Of
and their
course.
safety standards have increased much, way better than what the healthcare industry has increased. So these are
Yes.
the few things which I wanted to kind of draw comparison in the book.
Yes. Yes. And while driving a flight, also there can be turbulence in between. So
Yes,
similarly, while giving anesthesia during that maintenance phase, also we can encounter many complications like spasms, laryngospasm, bronchospasm, or desaturation, bradycardia, anything. It's like a flight having a turbulence. Then we have to treat it, get back on track, and then we have to land safely. So let's move on to our next question. Sir, is it really possible to get a right balance between a personal life and work life, sir? If yes, how can we achieve it? Especially for a branch like anesthesia, sir. Is it possible to balance both?
okay, see, uh, I would like to first tell your viewers, listeners, that this concept of work-life balance makes work an alien thing, right? It
Yeah,
puts life on one side and work on other side, which I don't think is right. Work is a part of life, right?
yeah,
So even if you go back to what Lord Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, Karma Yoga is the first thing. that you have to go through,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Only when you have done the karma yoga properly, then you can go on to the higher things. So trying to
Mhm.
see work as a different thing is probably the first mistake we do. And as doctors, uh, the moment we sign up to being a doctor, we are giving that value to the society, uh, and we are sacrificing some of our personal life, which is something which we understand from the day we become a medical student. But if you
Yes.
look at
Yes.
how to achieve this work-life balance, there are a few things which I would like to say. Now, there is this concept of juggling five balls. Okay, so let's take
Okay.
you have five balls that you're juggling. One ball is
Mhm.
work, right?
Okay.
The other ball is health. The third ball is a relationship. It could be with friends or family. The fourth ball is interests or hobbies.
Okay.
And the fifth ball is spirituality, which I would say a connection within yourself, the voice within yourself. Okay.
Mhm.
So you are juggling these five balls all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you lose health, right? If you
Doesn't
don't
come
have
back.
health, you can't
Yeah.
do anything. You can't enjoy, you
Yes.
can't
Yes.
work, you can't do anything. Second, if you actually have a relationship which has gone sour, okay, which where
Yes.
there is
Yes.
either a breakup in a, you know, it could be a marriage, or it could be a friendship, which is, it's very difficult to repair it back. Now, the
Yes. Yes.
ball called work, it'll bounce back. Okay,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
we
True.
have many ladies who take maternity break, 1 year, 1.5 years. They come
Mhm.
back. They're as efficient
Yes.
as
Yes.
before, in fact, more charged up. And the
Yes.
other
Yes.
things like hobbies and the other the spiritual connect that you have, even that can be rekindled. But we have to look
Yes.
after the health and relationships. So
Mhm.
I feel that if you want to have a good balance, you have to give priority to health, because
Yes.
only when you're
Yes.
fit, only when you're mentally calm, then you can do everything else. Okay. Second,
Agreed. Agreed.
second thing which I feel is important with work-life balance is having a positive frame of mind.
Mhm.
Positive frame of mind. So I think these are the main things where, and time management, of course, it's a very
Yeah.
important thing. Uh,
Sir, in the same context, on one side of the coin, you're a anesthesiologist and a pain physician. And on the other side of the coin, you're a teacher, you're a writer, you're a motivational speaker, and you're a photographer by hobby too. So, how can you be busy with work and still keep an eye on your passion also, sir? How is it? How is that possible?
See, again, it comes down to time management, right? Now,
Okay. Yeah.
there is something called a signal noise ratio, which I mentioned in the book. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Now, in your life, you have 24 hours, and you need to filter things that come into you, into your
Okay.
senses, into your
Mm-hmm.
domain, I would say. So, if you are getting a lot of noise, when I say noise, it's gossip, it is news, which is probably not required. Now, to give you an example, newspaper. Now, if
Mm-hmm.
you were to read a newspaper which is 1 week old or 1 month old, would it make a
Mm-hmm.
difference to your life? I don't think so.
Oh,
Not much, unless
no.
you're
Things
trading in
which
the
are
market.
irrelevant. Yeah.
Yeah, unless you're trading in the market and there is a big thing there. But
Yeah.
otherwise, it's irrelevant. And watching news, watching debates about some political drama, which is not required to your life, right? So if you
Yes.
minimize the
Yes.
noise coming into your system
Mm-hmm.
and you improve the signal. Now, when I say signal, I talk about reading. So you pick up a good book. It could be
Mm-hmm.
related to subject. It could be related to a fiction writer that you like, but
Yeah.
it is something that you enjoy, or it could be a old movie that you want to watch. You know,
What? Yeah.
a good actor that you always loved and you want to watch. So that still is a signal. Or listening to some good quality music. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
if you start looking at everything that comes in as whether it's a noise or signal, you will start taking in the signal.
Yes.
And
Agreed,
and
sir.
and the moment you weed out things which are not required, you will have enough time to do things.
So basically, things which are irrelevant to us or things which are not going to fetch us anything, and like it should give us some entertainment or knowledge or motivation or anything which will give some amount of dopamine rush actually. think like watching every web series that comes in the OTT or every movie that comes in the theaters doesn't make any sense
Yes.
is what I feel, sir.
Yeah. Another thing is to always have mentors or people whom you look up to. So I've had
Yes.
many people like, that, and I've mentioned a few of them in the acknowledgements. Dr. Murali Chakravarti from, Fortis
Hmm.
Hospitals in Bangalore. He was one of, the people who inspired me to take up anesthesia. Then I had some
Yes.
very good teachers, during my journey. And when you see such people, you get inspired.
Yes.
The work culture, say example, the Ganga hospitals in Coimbatore, the work culture there, the
Hmm.
positivity, when you go there. So certain institutions, certain people, they inspire you, and you can learn from them.
Yes.
So all of us make mistakes, so there is a room for learning, and time management is something
Yeah.
like that.
Yes. Like they say, we will become whom we are surrounded by. It's like
Yes,
that.
not
Yeah.
whom you're surrounded by, the five most people whom you're close to.
Yes. Yes. Sir, I would like to touch upon this a financial aspect, sir. Most of our listeners might be curious about knowing that. Sir, what is your opinion on working as a private practitioner or a freelancer after MD or DNB anesthesia and working at an institute or a medical college? How does both of these differ, sir?
Okay, I have the disclaimer that I have never worked as a freelance or a private practitioner. I did think
Mhm.
of doing it initially post MD, but then I joined a place and went to UK. I stayed 6 months and then I went to UK. But I've
Mhm.
known many friends who have been freelance practitioners, and there are few things here when it comes to finance. So let's start with the bigger picture of finance, right?
Mhm.
So money is a tool. Okay, I'm sure you'll agree. Okay,
Yeah,
it's a
definitely.
tool to buy
Most
things.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tool to buy things. Now,
Yes.
most of us think that when we buy things, we buy happiness and freedom,
Mm.
because these are the two things everybody craves for. If you
Yes.
ask most
Yes.
of your listeners, they want to be happy, they want to be free, and everybody is
True.
working towards that, right? So you want to know what this money will buy for you and how much of happiness and freedom it will buy. Okay, that's the first thing that you have to be very clear in your mind.
Yeah.
Second thing is, as doctors, as people who have finished anesthesia, generally we tend to start earning a bit late in life compared to a friend who has done, say, IT, software engineer, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
So there is this feeling that, okay, I need to earn, I need to catch up. Okay, this actually causes a lot of people to feel a little, I would say, not frustrated, but
Insecure. Yeah.
insecure and in a rush to
Yeah.
earn money. Okay.
True. Yeah.
But what we need to understand is our game is different. As a doctor, you are earning your career trajectory is completely different compared to an IT professional. Okay.
Agree.
Now, another big important thing here, which I have learned from, again, my senior colleagues, and in fact, my head of the department, Dr. Kumar Swami, is my guide when it comes to financial matters. He always used to say, you spend less and save more. So if your
Mm.
spending is less than what you are actually earning, you'll save. You'll always be in the
Yeah.
positive. And
Yeah.
when you're in the positive, and if you invest it in the right way, you will compound that wealth. Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
now coming to the freelance practice and an institutional based practice. Now, there are a lot of things which you trade off when you start your freelance
Hmm.
practice, right? One is
Yeah.
freedom. Okay. The second
Yes.
thing is, yes, there might be a little bit more money to be earned as a freelance practitioner, but you rarely have a team.
Yeah.
You're most of the
True, sir.
time
Support.
yeah, a solo person. And as we are seeing patients getting sicker, we are anesthetizing more elderly patients with more
Hmm.
comorbidities. It's very
Hmm.
important to have support systems in place. My understanding in the last 5 years or so is even freelance practitioners, there are teams which are being formed, especially in the cities, where people have support of each other. So if there is a difficult, case to be done, there is somebody to help you, even at odd hours.
Help you.
So
Yes.
this is one thing about a freelance practice. Now, why would you go into an institution? Why would you want to work in institution, whether it is a corporate or whether it is a college related institution? One is
If
you
you
have
want to do like see different types of cases, or you want
yes.
to go towards research side, then we usually prefer an institute.
But
Mhm.
having said that, you work in a team, you work as a
Yeah.
department, then
Mhm.
you have support systems, you have access to gadgets as well. As a
Yeah.
freelance practitioner, you might not have ultrasound in every place that you go.
Yes.
But if in an institution you have an ultrasound, you're able to give even the high risk patients because you can do regional
Mhm.
anesthesia related blocks. The
Yes.
other
Yes.
thing about the working in an institution, as you said, is teaching. Now,
Yes.
if you're interested in teaching, if you want to kind of train more students, if that's your passion, then being in an institution will make a huge difference. So there
Yes.
are
Yes.
pros and cons for each. And I feel, going forward, even freelance practitioners will form teams, and I think that is the way forward.
Yeah. So actually, the job security is also more with institutes now, sir. Like
Yes,
rather than freelancing, in freelancing, one day we might not get the case at all. One day we might get 10 cases. But coming to an institute, we have the job security. Monthly, you will be credited with some salary and all.
that is true. That is true.
Yeah.
But again, but there is a need, especially in our country, for more anesthetists, and there are centers which are smaller in size. We have nursing homes of even 10 bed,
Yes.
15 bed.
Yeah.
So you can't have a team there, right? So
True.
it has to be one person. Probably they might do just one or two cases a day. So they can't
Mhm.
invest in a team. So I feel as a freelance, if they form teams, which is happening, I think that will actually help quite a lot going forward.
Okay. Yeah. Agreed, sir. Sir, many PGs might be watching this in my channel, sir. MD, DNB students. So, what according to you are the most important qualities postgraduate must adapt to become successful as an anesthesiologist? Which qualities must he adapt, sir, during his
This,
training period and all?
this is actually a very good question, and I would
Mhm.
go back to my training days. Uh,
Yeah.
what my professor used to say, we had some really wonderful people, who were guiding us during those days. If you ask anybody who has done their post graduation in the 90s and 2000s, they'll tell you that there was really eminent teachers at that point. And the three things which we talk about whenever we talk about training is knowledge, your skills, and attitude. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
knowledge is something which we learn from the day we enter school, right? How to gather knowledge. So you pick
Mhm.
up a book, you read, and then you compete with the person next to you, and you
Yeah.
score well in your competitive exam, right? That
True.
is something which we learn from school. So that
Mhm.
is a prerequisite which has to be there if you want to be a good
Okay.
anesthetist. Next
Yeah.
is skills. Now, unlike other specialties or other fields, here skills are important. You need to be able to put an epidural. You need to be able to intubate, hold a mask. So skills are important. Now,
Yeah.
skills don't come from books. They
True.
come from teachers and mentors. And
Mhm.
at this point, we cannot have this sense of pride or ego that I am great. You might have scored a gold medal in your you know uh, entrance exam. You might be the number one rank, but the
Yeah.
moment you come to learn the skills, you have to become humble. So I feel that humility is a very important thing that a postgraduate should have.
Okay.
They should be humble. The senior PG who's teaching him, or it could be an SR who's teaching him or her, they need to be humble to learn that skill. An epidural which is taught for the first time, the guru who's teaching you is always guru. You'll remember him for
Yes.
your life. The first
Mhm.
epidural, the first intubation, you'll remember that
Definitely.
guru for your life. right? I'm
Yeah.
sure you also would know all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next
Definitely, sir.
comes, next, once you learn the skill, what you do. Now, here comes the question of attitude. Now,
Mhm.
this podcast might look very serious at this point now because attitude is something which is not something you can get from the books. It
Yes.
cannot come from
True.
another person. It is something that you have to build yourself. And this we call it as the inner narrative. So, inner narrative
Mhm.
is the story that you tell yourself. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, at this point, I might be sounding like Sadhguru and inner engineering, but
No,
but
no,
you're
sir. It's not like that.
but but post graduation, you need to develop this attitude. Okay. And what are the key things in this attitude? You need to have good integrity. If you do a mistake, you should be
Mhm.
able to own up and tell that, yes, I did this mistake. I'm sorry. You have to be enthusiastic to learn, okay, to do things. Okay. You have to be cooperative because you're working in departments as other postgraduates are there. You have to be able to help them around. You have to be able to teach, or, somebody is not well, you have to be able to do their duty. This
Yeah.
cannot be taught. Okay. Next, you
Yes.
have to be tolerant. You will not have everybody who is brilliant. You will not have everybody who is hardworking. At the same time, somebody might be undergoing some health issues. So you have to be
Yes.
tolerant to
Yes.
people around you. Next, most important is professional conduct. Now, I
Mhm.
feel as a doctor, you are way above a lot of people in the society.
Yeah.
And you have to feel proud that you're a doctor, you're a postgraduate, and you're doing anesthesia. And
Yeah.
that sense of professional conduct when you meet a patient, when you talk to a surgeon, when you talk to a physician, should be developed. This is the attitude. This cannot be
Mhm.
taught. And
Yes.
finally,
Yes.
optimism, right? Now, if you're going to come to an OT and feel that, oh, this case might go wrong, or I might not get my spinal, or I might not be able to intubate, that is a pessimistic attitude. So, if you
Okay.
have these qualities and have that attitude, I feel going forward, we'll have a lot of leaders in anesthesia in the country.
Agreed, sir. All the things what you have said is absolutely right, sir. So, while we are talking about this, reading your book, I started with the line called "An anesthetist is the secret hero of any hospital." We, after doing MD or DNB anesthesia, looking at the legends in the field, we know what anesthesia is. But the general public, nor even some fraternity in the medical field also doesn't know what actually anesthesia is. So when comes to the household people like parents or the siblings, they don't know what actually anesthesia is. So most of the parents, they are not satisfied when their son or daughter chooses anesthesia as their branch. They always wish like their kids has to be the face of the hospital or their kids has to maintain a clinic or an OPD. So my question to you is, how should, if a child is interested in taking anesthesia, choosing anesthesia as their specialty, how can he convince their parents that that is the right branch for him, sir?
Yeah, this is a very good question because this is the same question I faced when I had to take anesthesia.
Even I
Because
face to an extent, sir.
because I was the first doctor in the family.
Yeah.
So as a doctor, what people are used to is, the doctor wearing a white coat, walking around in the corridor with four or five juniors behind them, and coming and doing rounds or sitting in OPD and, seeing patients. So when I first announced at home that I'm going to be taking anesthesia, so my mother was like, but I don't know, is anesthetist a doctor? Uh, uh, you know, eh, we don't even see them. Where are they? They'll be somewhere inside. Why do you want to take some specialty where you're not seen?
Exactly. Yeah.
But what I had to convince her is that when it comes to adding value to the system, right? There are many people who work where we don't see them, but they add a huge value, right? Like we are
Yes.
talking on
Yes.
this platform, wherever you're recording the podcast, it
Yes.
has been coded by some brilliant people. Many people would
Yes.
have
Yes.
graduated from the top universities in the world. Now they are
Exactly.
adding value to the society by creating this software, right?
Yes.
So similarly, I had to tell and convince that anesthetists are very important, They are one of the key people when it comes to surgery. Surgeries don't happen without good anesthesia.
Yeah.
And later, when I took it up, and when people started, recognizing, especially relatives, when they realize that you are a very important person, they'll call you.
Yeah.
They'll tell we are undergoing surgery. Please look after.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's when the
Especially
value
post
comes in.
COVID, maybe. Yeah.
Very much during COVID. Very much during COVID.
Yes. Yeah.
But again, I would say the blame is on ourselves,
Mm.
because we do not project ourselves as important people in the hospital,
Mhm.
right? Now, we are pain physicians. If you see now,
Yes.
most of the medical colleges has a pain department, and
Yes.
many
Yes.
centers have opened up across India, and we are treating thousands of people every day as pain physicians.
Yes. Yes.
We are perioperative physicians. That is, we see them preoperatively. We are intensivists looking after patients in the ICU, and we
Yes.
are adding so much value to the system. What we need to do is we need to highlight that. Now, one of the reasons I wrote the book was for that, because many people don't know what anesthetist does.
Don't know. Exactly.
So trying to tell them what we do, create awareness that anesthetists have a very good important role to play. And I
Yeah.
feel this is the narrative that we have to give to parents or siblings, that we do form an important part of the entire
Yes.
system. And,
Yeah.
there are a lot of different roles that we play.
A person who has undergone a surgery, he will know better, sir, actually, how much care an anesthesiologist takes of him in the operation theater when somebody in spinal or a peripheral nerve block is with an anesthesiologist. That person will actually know like what our duties are. And what you
Yes.
said is also very relatable, sir. Actually, one of my friend who he has completed his radiology. When he went for the counseling, he took radiology. Like he was state fifth rank according to the merit list. He came back home saying that I got radiology. Her mother was very disappointed. Like she was shouting at him, "How come you could take radiology? You should have taken ENT." She wanted him to take ENT. She doesn't know what a radiologist does. She never seen a radiologist. So that is a same like scenario with anesthesia also, sir. Like the mindset and the knowledge, it's all about the knowledge and awareness what people have about some branches is still continuing even today, sir.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Sir, we all know that being anesthesiologist will evoke a lot of stress. We'll have a lot of adrenaline rush due to all the complication and intraoperative events. So can you give us some tips how we can manage stress, especially during the first and second year of residency, sir?
Yeah, in fact, I would say the first 15, 20 days are very stressful when you join
Yeah.
anesthesia.
Yes, sir.
Because you don't get, I don't know, during our times, government hospital, we hardly had postgraduates, and
Hmm.
by the 10th day you were expected to do things by yourself. Very stressful.
Yes.
But
Hmm.
now I feel that when it comes to, again, see, it all boils down to fundamentals, like what is stress, right? So stress is
Yes.
nothing but when your demands are in excess of your ability. Okay, so
Yes.
you have certain ability and the demands are more, so you can't cope up with that, so you get stressed. Now,
Hmm.
one of the things that I would say is most important for any kind of stress or anything is good health again, right?
Hmm.
Exercise is, I would say, very important, because as postgraduates, I still remember I learned swimming during post-graduation mainly to combat stress.
Oh,
Okay, we would
okay.
do the duty wherein we would be up for 24 to 30 hours, and then you're so tired and stressed out.
I,
Yeah, then you have to have some avenue to kind of vent it out. Okay,
hmm.
and exercise is one of the best. Why? Because it will energize you, it will release endorphins, it will make you look better, it will make you feel better, right?
Yes, yes.
So exercise is one excellent thing. Second, I would say, is meditation. Now, meditation, people might think, is something very boring. Okay, if they hear meditation, they'll think it has to be done by somebody who is 50 years old above, or somebody who is not very energetic and
Yes.
likes life. But meditation is actually
Yeah.
a way of decluttering your brain.
Mm.
Okay, that is the best way you can talk about meditation. You're trying to cleanse your mind and become fresh. So there are multiple avenues to learn meditation, and we have so many apps now. So I would suggest people to
Yes.
take that up. Third
Okay.
important thing is eating right. Now,
Mm.
residency, your post graduation is a time when you don't eat properly, correct?
We'll
So
skip meals.
you'll
Yes.
skip meals. You're stuck in some
Yes.
case. You will come out at 4 o'clock. Then you'll eat your lunch at
Yes.
4.
Yes.
Then
True.
you'll end up kind of having two biryanis probably in the evening because you're so tired.
Yes.
These kind of things happen. So knowing what you're eating and eating healthy uh, has a huge role, especially not only for you know uh, the mental stress thing, but also when it comes to gut and obesity and all these kind of
Mhm.
things. So eating right,
Yes.
but most importantly, everything I would say is friends, because how much ever
Okay.
trouble you're going through, if you have a good friend circle, you laugh it through. Now, this the best examples
True,
are
sir.
people from war fronts, right? People who
Okay.
actually are
Yeah.
fighting a
Yeah.
war, about to die. The amount
Mm.
of
Yeah.
friendships they develop, and how much we have seen so many movies, right?
Movies. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Even yeah, while fighting it with the bullets in their body, also they'll keep making some jokes and making each other laugh.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I don't know whether you worked during COVID, but we were doing ICU duties, and uh,
Yes, sir.
having the right person, that right friend to talk to, made a huge difference when you're facing
Yes.
sorrow, when when you have to deal with loss of patients and things like that. So I feel that
Yeah.
these things, if you have all these in place, I don't think you should have much of an issue doing your residency or even pursuing things later. And of
Yes.
course, we have
Yes.
to watch your Instagram daily, so we'll keep laughing.
Definitely, sir. It will it will make you smile at least for those 5 minutes.
No, no, it's
Yeah.
important. Many people love that, that's the reason I think many people kind of get onto your Insta page and go through your reels or whatever you post, because it does make you
Yeah.
laugh. There's a lot of good things out there.
Yeah. Three things, sir. The main motto of that page was three things: entertainment, education, and motivation. I always wanted to make posts on these three things, sir, basically.
It's very good. It's very good. Very good.
Yeah. Sir, can you give some insight about research, sir? Research is the most undercooked meal in India, is what I feel. Like, what is the importance of research or thesis, especially in evolving branches like ours, like anesthesia?
Okay, now the research, it's a very interesting question actually. Now, we thought about it quite a lot. In fact, I had discussions with very senior people also about this. Now, research in anesthesia, say, let's take example, 20 years
Mm,
ago, the things were different. What was being researched was different. Now,
mm,
what we need to research is different. Okay, the what we call as the low hanging fruits have been picked. Okay, so we have
mm.
done all the studies which had to be done for spinal. We have done most of the studies with intubation responses. We have done with different gadgets. Now we have to redefine what we are going to do research on. One. Second thing
Mm.
is, research for a postgraduate is different for than research for somebody doing research later in the career. Now, post-graduation thesis research is to introduce them to the concept of research,
Research.
introduce them
Okay.
to the concept of how to submit a proposal to the scientific review board, ethics committee, write an abstract or write the paper. That I wouldn't call it
Yes.
as a true research, because you're still understanding the subject,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
But once you finish your
Yes.
post-graduation and you join an academic institution, if you plan to do
Mm.
research, that would be more meaningful research. And the
Yes.
way to
Yes.
go about for that is, you can attend workshops. ISA conducts workshops. Dr. Rakesh Garg, who heads his editor in
Yeah.
chief. He is a proponent,
Mm.
Dr. Balabhaskar, and Dr. others who are into the research and publication. So attending such
Yes.
workshops will give an insight of how to do research. And there are
Mm.
seniors always to help. There are all the people who've been ex-editors or seniors. They're ready to help. And more
Yes.
importantly, is the tool of Twitter. Now,
Mm.
Twitter is something which I urge every listener, every person listening to this podcast. If you're an
Mm.
anesthetist, please get onto Twitter. Now, Twitter is
Yeah.
a place where you have meaningful academic exchange.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it is not like
Agreed.
Instagram, it is not like WhatsApp, it's not like
Yes.
Facebook. You get to be directly in conversation with the editors. You can directly
Mm.
converse with researchers. You can talk to the stalwarts in the world, and you can
Yes.
ask questions. You can clarify things with them. This is a tool
Mm.
which is underutilized by anesthetists in India.
Yes.
Now,
Agreed.
if you can get on and if you can find the right questions through them or through your own insight, I would urge you to actually go ahead and do it. You know,
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
so that is I think the way forward, and we need to produce good quality research in India. There is
Yes.
I,
Yes.
everybody agrees to that. There is so much of data. We do so many cases, but there is not much out there in the domain
Yes.
of
Yes.
international literature. So I think that is
Yes.
an important thing. Good question, actually. Good question.
Like, I don't know, I don't even remember what are the contributions of India to the like anesthesia, sir. Like when Sheshagiri Rao Mallampati sir has given the Mallampati score, that is what I remember. Other than that, the chloroform commissions is there. Then, in the latest times, in the past 3 4 decades, like, do you have anything worth telling, sir, about the contribution of Indians to anesthesia field?
No, no, there are a lot of actually, lot of Indians. Now, if you look at professors in the UK, Professor David
Mm.
Menon, who was in Cambridge, Professor Miracle,
Okay.
who has been the key person behind Rocuronium. Then we
Mm.
have,
Okay.
our pain physicians, uh, Dr. Raj, who is actually from Mysore. He's got a textbook,
Mm.
and he's one of the founders of the pain wing of the American Society of Regional Anesthesia. Then,
Oh.
just to name a few, Dr. Lakshmaya Manchikanti, who is again from Andhra, who has done
Mm.
phenomenal work in pain medicine. And,
Mm.
so these are, just to name a few, there are many more people who have
Yes.
done
Yes.
phenomenal work. But there has
Yes.
been a lot of contribution. Dr. Bhavani Shankar Kodli, again from Andhra, I would
Mm.
say you should be very proud, actually.
Yes. Yes, sir. Very strong.
So they've done some phenomenal work, and we have a lot of Indian anesthetists, not only abroad but in India also, doing some really good work. It's so
Mm.
difficult to actually name. Dr. Balavenkat is there from Ganga Hospitals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sir has done
Yes.
a lot of work when it comes to academic in the World Federation of
Yeah. He's a great
Society of
academic.
Anesthetists.
Yes.
So he has done a lot of work.
Yeah.
Dr. Divatia, again in critical care medicine. Uh, Dr. Sheila
Mm.
from Tata again. They've done a lot of, there's so many people whom you can look up to.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when it comes, Dr. Rakesh Garg, who has been the, uh, you know,
Yeah.
architect of Chakra Rao from Andhra again, who's done the Resuscitation Council. So there's a lot of work which has
Yeah.
been done. But as
Yes.
youngsters, I urge all the postgraduates to, take up this kind of, I would say, uh, the baton, from the seniors, and take it forward. Bring India to
Yes.
greater heights.
Sir, talking about UK and US, I have seen that you have done your FRC, you have practiced and trained in UK also. So, what is the difference between anesthesiologist training in India compared to those trained in UK and US? Like, will there be any difference in the skills or knowledge wise? What is the difference between the residents of UK, US, and India, sir?
Okay. Okay,
One thing is definitely research is more over there, other than research, anything.
okay. So this again comes back to our question of that knowledge, skills, and attitude. Okay. So
Yes.
when it comes to knowledge, I'm sure there is not much of difference, you know, wherever you go. Uh, the skill sets again, it depends again in which center you're training in India. What is the
Okay.
caseload? Okay, what are the equipments available? So there can be a disparity. Say if you take some very good institutes, central institutes, the number of cases that you will be doing is going to be far higher compared to a
Okay.
medical college which has got just a recognition last year for a post graduation. Okay, so you'll see that disparity. Coming to the number of years that you spend in India, we will do a 3-year residency or post graduation, whatever you want to call it. Then you will do 1 year of SR, and then you get on to being a lecturer or whatever.
Yeah.
In a corporate setup, you might wait 6 years, 7 years sometimes to be labeled as a consultant. In the
Yes. Yes.
UK, you go through a process. It's a very structured process, right? So you finish your FRCA. Now, just having an FRCA doesn't make you eligible to practice as a consultant.
In the UK.
In the UK. So as an FRCA,
Okay.
you have just become a fellow of the Royal College, but you are not completed the
Okay.
stipulated training.
Oh.
So once you complete the stipulated training, you get a certificate called certificate of completion of training called CCT.
CCT.
Only when you have a CCT can you become a specialist.
Okay.
Now the
How long is this, sir? FRCA plus CCT?
It's close to 7 years.
Oh.
So from the time you finish your internship, that's called then you start with your foundation year, then you go ahead. So it has changed from the time I did my training to now. Things have changed, but it more or less is the same.
Yes.
Close to 7 years. The number of hours that you work is less in the UK.
Okay.
So you'll work 48 hours to 50 hours on an average.
50 hours.
Right?
Yes.
Your fellowship or your subspecialty or super specialty is integrated into the training in UK. So you don't have to do a separate fellowship. Like example, now if you finish MD here, you have to do your DM or you have to do your PDCC course or you have to do pain training, which is separate. Whereas in the UK, that is integrated into the training. So you can do 1 year of pediatric, you can do 1 year of obstetric, you can do 1 year of cardiac. So in that 1 year, I did pain. So that is integrated. Coming to the US, I haven't had first-hand experience, but a lot of my friends have trained there. So US, the number of working hours is far more than UK. It is nearly double. So you're working actually double the hours. The OT start at 6 o'clock in the morning in a university hospital, and you're working minimum 12 to 14 hours per day.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
You have the classes built into the program. So every morning you'll have a class, you'll have presentations, and every 6 months to 1 year, you have a review by your trainer or a mentor. Okay. And they ensure that you do projects, that you get publications, so that your CV is also growing along with you. Which I don't see happening in India.
No. Actually, the publication or the thesis also, students feel it as a burden over them actually.
Yes. So there it is built into the system that you have to do it. So you don't see it as something different. Here we see it as something different, therefore you see it as a burden.
Yes.
So that is where the differences are.
That was a great discussion, sir. I would like to close this by asking you, sir, recently we have seen some incidents where like the senior junior things, like there was development of a toxic environment in the departments also, sir, like department politics or the senior harassing the junior or something, so situations like those. So how do you suggest the relation should be between a consultant and a postgraduate, or in between the postgraduates also, the seniors and juniors? How should the relation should be, sir, in between both of them?
Okay. I'll ask you the question back now. Okay. Now, how is the relationship in a family between brothers and sisters, between parents and kids?
Yeah, always the senior has to understand junior. So junior mostly he doesn't understand. You know, the senior is the one who has to train him properly so that he'll be obedient, so that he'll be, you know, if parents control their children, then it is difficult that he'll go in a right direction, sir. You must understand what your subordinate is doing. You must understand what their problem is and give a solution in the way in which he will be convinced and he'll be on the right track. That is what I feel, sir.
I've known firsthand from my juniors who have trained in different institutes. Okay, North
Yes.
India, West of India, East of India, South of India. Practices change in every different place.
Mhm.
The hierarchy system, how the seniors behave, how the juniors are expected to behave, is different
Yeah.
in every place. Okay, but
Yes.
I feel the best relationship one can have is the relationship of a family. Okay,
Yes.
wherein you treat that other person, whether it is a junior or your colleague, as a fellow family
Mhm.
member, right?
Yeah.
Uh, with that love and affection and understanding that goes
Mhm.
without saying, according to every book of every religion. Okay, whether
Yes.
you're
Mhm.
Hindu, Christian, Muslim, no book tells you to treat another human being in a wrong way, right? Now,
Yes.
if
Yes.
you were to follow that, and if you were to treat, you know, your junior as somebody who is learning from you, see, they have come to learn from you.
Mhm.
You have to teach them, because tomorrow this person is going to give you anesthesia.
Yes. Yes, sir. That is true.
So, right now, recently we had one of our very senior surgeons who had to have a procedure. Now, who gave him
Mhm.
anesthesia? It was one of our most junior consultants,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
nobody else was available on that day.
Okay.
Now, that surgeon now has got utmost respect for this person,
Mhm.
because the day when he needed somebody, this person was there, and he gave
There.
brilliant block,
Yeah.
which worked so well. So
Okay.
I feel this mutual, respect for each other, and having that kind of a environment where people can speak up, and a junior speaking up is very important.
Yes.
If as a senior you're doing something wrong, a junior should be able to tell you that you're doing wrong.
Mhm.
That kind
The
of an
senior
environment.
must be in a place, in a position to understand what he's saying also, sir.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That cultural change
Yeah.
should come about,
Come.
right?
Yes, sir.
Uh, See, of course, as a senior, you'll have more experience, you'll have more wisdom,
Mhm.
but
Yes.
you can still do a mistake. All of
Yes.
us do
Yes.
mistakes. Okay, if I'm
Yes.
telling that I've not done, in fact, in the book I've written a few mistakes which I've done. Right?
Yes.
All of us do mistakes. If you tell that you don't do a mistake, then you're lying.
Yes. Yes.
And if a junior is able to tell you that, that is the kind of culture that should come. And
Yes.
I
Yes.
would say that in the Western world, juniors have a little bit more voice. They're able to speak up a little bit more,
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
compared to what we see here. A few might disagree, but this is my personal experience, which I have seen. That
Okay.
the hierarchy is less. So you will still go out for a meal with your HOD. You will actually sit along with them, have a coffee. So
Yes.
this kind
Yes,
of
sir.
hierarchy system is less when compared to India.
Okay. Sir, is it true that they won't address them with any sir and all, and they'll be addressing them by their name? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
true, sir?
yeah. That is a culture.
Okay. Yeah.
Sir is especially in the UK, it's only given to people who are knighted, right? So you don't call
Yes.
anybody
Yes.
sir.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that is a very colonial thing which has stuck with us in India,
Yes.
because
Yes.
When the Britishers were there, we are used to calling people sir, sir. And so
Sir.
probably that is the
Yeah.
reason.
So
But
that carried.
that is one thing. But that's a very minor thing, when it comes
My
to.
very minor thing. Yeah. Today,
Mm,
like calling sir is like giving more respect. That's all. Like
that's it. That's
it's
it.
not
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we are not. We don't want to disrespect anyone, and we are very much okay with saying sir also. That it's like I'm giving respect to my seniors.
Yes.
That's all.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
great sir. Yes. And that brings us to the end of this captivating episode of our podcast. And I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Murali sir for joining us today and sharing his invaluable insights into the world of anesthesiology and beyond. So thank you for your time, for your expertise and dedication to advancing the field of anesthesiology. And your book, Think Like an Anesthetist, The Life Tools from the Operation Theatre, comes to inspire and educate aspiring professionals like me, sir. And yeah, to the people who are listening, the Amazon link of the book will be pinned in the description box below. Definitely check this out. And don't forget to like and share this video and click on the subscribe button before you leave. Join us next time as we continue our exploration into the diverse fields, bringing you fascinating conversations with the experts who are shaping this world. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Karthik. Thanks for having me. Thank you.